Promise?
Drones or fireworks? What would you rather see?
Fireworks.
Okay.
American.
The drone show is becoming really popular.
Just seems like it'd be really expensive. Really, really expensive.
I'm amazed at how impressive the drone show looks. Like at Volleyball Day in Nebraska last year, they did the big drone
that was pretty cool.
show. I was like, dang. But I noticed that there are some communities are foregoing fireworks for a drone show.
Damn. Those communities.
Slackers.
Their old HOA must be racking it up.
Trust me, there will be plenty of people. There are some bougie neighborhood shows that they are now blocking off streets where they don't want outsiders to come in. You ever drive by there at 105th and Pacific? For Happy Hollows fireworks?
I've never tried to go
people
there.
People are lined up like they're tailgating, like across from Trader Joe's.
And then once you break through the barrier, you're greeted by Judge Smales, and he says, "Some people just don't belong."
Rubik's Cube you can get for $9.29 right now at Walmart.
I was really happy to hear that it's still under $10. I was wondering if that thing had crept over close to $15, $20 maybe. Because you should never have to pay more than $10 for a Rubik's Cube. As fascinating as it is, as much of a mind test as it is, it should always be under $10. So
what was the original price of the Rubik's Cube?
I bet it was $1.50 30 years ago. Right? 30? No, I'm sorry, 50 years. 50 years ago, I bet it was $1.50.
Okay, so if you go to eBay, Rubik's Cube original from 1980, still sealed, $428.
Oh, there's a collector's piece. That's not bad.
I'm looking for the price. I do not see the original price on this.
Yeah, it feels like a just under $2 type purchase to me. Not quite under $1. I might be wrong. Maybe it was under $1, but I bet it was just a little bit over $1.
So inflation has hit the Rubik's Cube.
Yeah,
it used to be cheap, and now it's expensive.
Yeah,
you consider $10 expensive?
No, I consider that the cost of the times we live in now.
Yesterday, Matt Rhule and Joe Klatt, their interview that was taped a while back, was released. Rhule said a lot of things in there. We discussed in the last hour about this upcoming season. It's a matter of when. What did you take about his comments about his quarterback?
They were spot on when it came to the things that they need to do, because we've had this conversation many a times on this radio program about just having competent, reliable quarterback play. And he brought up being able to complete passes on 3rd and 5, which was something that eluded this quarterback trio last year, even Chuba. And one of those quarterbacks happens to still be on the roster.
So I think that a little bit he forgot about Harburg, who's still on the roster, while praising Dillon. So he said to Klatt, he sees an immediate impact. They will be able to throw the ball better and reduce turnovers. Turnovers was a big discussion about this.
Yes.
That is one of those things that I will believe it when I see it, because it might be a Nebraska thing about turnovers. Now, it can't be minus 17.
Yeah.
There's no way in God's green earth that it can be minus 17 and think that Nebraska football is going to have a productive season.
Rhule said he'll be gone if they're minus 17 next year. Said he'll be done.
Well, that might be complicated for Dannon. How's that going to work in the contract? But he also tied it into Nebraska reducing turnovers and allow the offense to be more aggressive because they trust our decision-making.
Yep.
He said that Raiola certainly has helped us raise the level of play, and I think he's going to be a guy that all of college football knows. So let's discuss quarterback from last year before we talk about 24, because his comments, I think he wanted to be about Raiola, but they were also about how bad Nebraska was at quarterback, and a little bit of that is on the head man.
Mm-hmm.
So they made a major mistake with Jeff Sims because they were new, and they didn't get Nebraska. I imagine if Casey Thompson had not played at a place like Texas before he came to Nebraska, he would be overwhelmed by what that position entails.
Yeah.
Everybody knows your name. Now, Casey was a little bit different. If you had interaction with him, you actually had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. It was very awkward.
Mm-hmm. He's a businessman.
Even nice kid, but it was sometimes it was really odd to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
But he was a businessman playing quarterback in Nebraska.
Yep.
But he was at Texas, so he understood when you're the quarterback at Texas, all the pressure you have and all the attention you get. So coming here, he was fine with it. And he was, playing for a coach that, he knew what it entailed. So now you get Rhule. Rhule shows up, and he kind of thinks he knows about the pressure of being the head coach at Nebraska. But then there's the other part of being the quarterback at Nebraska. And this is where they failed on multiple levels. Jeff Sims was not ready to be the quarterback at Nebraska because Jeff Sims, with all the being a bakery store problems he had, he also couldn't handle the attention, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of the attention was good, man. Well, yeah. Amigos,
Big Ten Media Days.
Acres.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Equipment.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's when things turn south, where everybody knows your name and everybody talks about you, and he couldn't handle that. That's where Rhule is different because Rhule has a background, and Rhule has been in the spotlight for a long time as a quarterback in high school, all the top-level quarterbacks. So he gets it, and he leans into it. Jeff Sims, nice guy, great guy. We all wish him well at Arizona State.
Great teammate.
But Jeff Sims being out in public before the season started last year wasn't super comfortable. He wasn't going to ignore you, but he wasn't super comfortable.
Well, and you remember we talked about this a year ago. We hadn't seen him. I think when the first thing that we saw before Big Ten Media Days was that he had that endorsement deal with Akers.
Yeah.
Then we saw him at Big Ten Media Days, and then he was a little bit more visible, obviously, because you got fall camp going on, and then the Amigos thing. But essentially, from spring ball to Big Ten Media Days, you didn't hear anything from him.
Yeah, it's a different position, but the guy that's in that position now is fully embracing it. He's everywhere. Okay. And he has no problem being out in public. He knows what the job entails. That's one of the reasons he came here. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that can be attractive to recruits of, oh man, I'll go there where they're talking about me. Everybody knows my name. Mm-hmm. But there's also part of, I think Rhule, and I might be reading too much into this. I think Rhule feels like he let Nebraska down last year.
I don't think you're off there at all.
Because they have just competent quarterback play. Competent. They go to a bowl game. Year one. They might win 7 games last year. But a misstep prior to the season, and then it snowballed. The position did not yield the opportunity to go to a bowl game. So now you shift to this year, and you got a guy that is a difference maker. You got a guy that has a different vibe. You got a guy that you just said will raise the level of the team, and everybody in college football is going to know who he is. There's a lot of discussion from our previous segment about Wisconsin and, Wisconsin changing their philosophy. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, 15 didn't come to Lincoln to hand the ball off.
No.
Nebraska's going to throw the ball a lot. They're going to throw it a lot. More than probably you think they will, because they have a guy that they trust can make throws. And they've got guys, Wilson Moore wrote about him today, and Ja'Cory Barney. They got guys that are not there to have the football put into their gut and then read a hole. They're brought to Lincoln to run down the field or run across the field and put up their hands and get hit with a pass.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of was knocking last year and praising the guy that he got that has changed the whole vibe and direction. But he doesn't need to be Superman.
No.
Just needs competent quarterback play. And you can be bare minimum, knowing that if it is bare minimum, you're like, but it won't be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I don't want to say anything over 52% completion percentage is going to feel like Superman, but anything over 60% completion percentage is going to feel a lot closer to that. But that's average.
They just want to. They have a quarterback that when they want to throw the ball, they'll be able to throw the ball.
Yeah. You don't have to all of a sudden get all knock-kneed when you're thinking about a 3rd and 5 and you have to throw even maybe the most basic route that is going to be a higher percentage play that in most occasions, as long as throw and route are executed, is going to yield you a first down. That's going to be an option, but who's to say that you don't get to some point with the confidence level of this offense that you can take even bigger shots on a 3rd and 5? where you can manipulate what the defense is doing, because not only do you have a quarterback that can anticipate, that has the arm strength and accuracy to get the football there, but you have a skill group that is going to be able to provide those types of opportunities too. It's, when you think about it, and this was a conversation we had during and even after the season about the overall football IQ of the quarterback. And I remember, and this also goes to some of the frantic moments that were taking place on the sideline with the coaching staff. So where you have to put them part of the conversation there, where you want to eventually have a guy that in the most chaotic moments, whether you're on the road or even at home in a tight game, that the quarterback already understands the way the game flow is going. And if there is some indecision when it comes to what's going to be the best play in that certain situation, that the quarterback knows. And in kind, Matt Rhule, Marcus Satterfield, Glenn Thomas all have the confidence and trust of, that's our guy. He knows that you take charge. You have the guy that's going to take charge.
Let's be honest. They want a quarterback. I mean, Marcus Satterfield is not the best offensive coordinator in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Not by any means.
Nope.
That's earth-shattering. It's breaking news. I'm sure it'll be out on Twitter shortly. They got a quarterback that can overcome the faults of their OC.
Yep.
They didn't have a quarterback that could work with an OC last year because the OC couldn't get on the level of the quarterback.
Right.
They have a quarterback that is on the level of the OC, and actually with football IQ and what they can do, what that quarterback can do, can overcome an OC.
And that's
rare.
It is rare, especially for an 18-year-old. But I think it is important. You brought it up, and I've talked about this before too. He's not built the same as people stepping into college football in that position as a freshman. It is rare. Now, you see it in certain programs that are typically top 5 programs that have guys that are capable of doing it, whether they have to or not as a true freshman. But people who are, I hate using the word groomed for this moment, because it does put it puts a buttload of expectations.
And I also think it's illegal.
Well, that's true too.
I think it'll get you in trouble.
Maybe grooming is not. Right?
Yeah.
But when you have been developed both physically and mentally for the position and have success at that position is one thing. But you bring up what I think is the more key factor in this whole conversation, and that is the attention that has come with that development. That's the attention that has come with being courted by some of the biggest schools in college football and the biggest brands in college football, that you don't shy away from it. Look, there's nothing wrong with guys that shy away from the attention, and just on Saturdays, they absolutely go out and kick ass. I mean, you can appreciate those types of guys. But I think there's also something to be said in unique environments like a place like Nebraska, where it's a conversation 365 days, that you have a guy that's okay with that, a guy that understands when he has a tough Saturday, it's going to be talked about. When he has a good Saturday, it's going to be talked about. But the bottom line is there's going to be that type of attention on you to where it's not overwhelming.
When was this filmed? Because Rhule knows what he has, but he has not painted him as Superman.
Yeah. He never
or as
has.
a savior. But this is the most, like, he has started now to push it, to say, because this is a line that it can come back to bite you.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a guy that all of college football knows. Now, they probably geeked out about quarterback play, and that did not make the final cut. But I'm curious on when this was filmed, because it wasn't too long ago that Rhule was asked about quarterbacks, and he tampered down the enthusiasm.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's part of it.
Do we know when this was? Do you know when this was taped?
I think I know it was in June. I don't know at what point of June though. I wonder if it was like the early part of June. This is another part of Matt Rhule, again, getting the fan base. You know that, and I think he understands that we're all pretty wise to what's happening at that position, where you don't necessarily, once you officially name him, if you did that in the offseason, that all the questions are now going to be doubled and tripled about Dylan Raiola. How'd you come to that conclusion? What about him? What about him? What about him? And so it's naturally going to lead into the conversation about Dylan Raiola.
That's a question for him. Like, how did you come to that decision?
Well, it shouldn't be a question. But it would be because it's official.
I came to that decision when the ink was dry on a piece of paper in December.
Called a letter of intent?
Yeah. I don't know why you'd ask that question.
No, but that's the part that everybody would get to because it's just because it's official and like you have to.
I don't think you have to. I think that's lazy. I think if that question is asked, I think that's a lazy reporter.
Well, and I think
because you ain't watching football.
Well, and he's even said, even Matt Rhule has even said, when talking about Dylan Raiola, he's given you every reason why he has put his level and his overall play sort of above and beyond of what's happening. But this is where I go back to where Matt Rhule, I think, is doing his players and mainly his freshman quarterback a major service. And that is, he talks about them. He hints at stuff. But then when he gets into the local media, it is tamped down. Because I think he does know that the more Dylan fodder you put out there, the more Dylan content you put out there, the more we're going to take it and run with it.
But I don't think he would have said this to a national guy, because this is being shared everywhere today, if he didn't believe that.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I absolutely.
You got to remember he has put his reputation on the line with a couple of talking points, whether to be to Joel Klatt or to other national media post-spring.
Yep. And it was reiterated.
I mean, he'd be called a fraud if some of this stuff doesn't come to fruition.
Right.
Because they go, look at you at Carolina, now at Nebraska. So I don't think he knows the landscape. He's talked about lessons he learned from Carolina. I don't think he's going to make the same lessons of speaking out of turn. So there's a couple of points when he says, I go, okay, he knows something that we don't, but there's the potential. You can see, you can dream or have hope because of physical things that we've seen.
The things that, and I thought he brought this up with Joel Klatt, but has also been very consistent with the offseason conversation, is the turnovers. There's a big part of that interaction, and it's been a big part of just his, if you want to call them, state of the program press conferences since spring. That's been a big part of the conversation. The other part has been that quiet confidence, where he talks about that blend of having guys that could have gone to the NFL but came back, but also that number that you brought up just the other day. And he talked about that with Joel Klatt, is having the 80 either freshmen or redshirt freshmen. So the blend of the younger guys watching the older guys that are contributing on the field, being able to learn from them and be the next in line with that too. I think he likes the roster balance that they have, even though it's majority younger guys. He's mentioned, says, I think people are going to realize we have a pretty good team. I don't think you're putting that out there or even circling year 2 to year 3 if you don't feel like, unless anything catastrophic takes place, that you're not going to be in a position to win at least 7 games.
I mean, he should essentially say, and he kind of has, and maybe he will when we get deep into talking season in a couple of weeks, it's time to start winning. He just says, fellas, it's time to start winning.
And what has he said? We're a 5-win team until proven otherwise.
Time to start winning. But it was, if you haven't seen it, it was a very enlightening conversation. Klatt likes Rhule.
Yeah.
I think I can't have Klatt like in Nebraska because he's a Colorado guy, but I think he likes Rhule. I think two football guys talking to each other gives some good content. And there was some good content in there, but that is like Rhule's setting. Like Rhule is talking to football people that ask good football questions. Rhule is super comfortable. And when you're done, you go, my God, that guy just turned this little conversation into a recruiting pitch for his football program.
Yep.
That's what we did yesterday. All right, Wilson Moore coming up in 30 minutes as he is back. We're not talking basketball. Well, actually, Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams are meeting the media today.
Oh, yeah, I got a little press opportunity. Yeah, okay. See what they have to say about this new roster. Yes.
Wilson will join us coming up at 9. 16:20 The Zone.